Western shirts and denim vests. Feels like I came unprepared to some kind of social test. Maybe I'm just too set in my ways. And I began to judge you 'cause I think you're judging me. We both dismiss each other oh so easily. Brothers act.
Okay, welcome to the Brian Hornback podcast. That is Handsome and the Humbles. That's off their project. Hold on a second. Let me figure this out. That's off their project, We're All the Same. And that is actually the clean version of We're All the Same. I would suggest that you go to any of your streaming services. Look up Handsome and the Humbles. The guys are from East Tennessee. My buddy Josh Smith is from Clinton. Zach Miles, I think, is still playing with them. He's from up in around Morgan County, and the rest of the guys are all from East Tennessee. But anyway, Handsome and the Humbles. I do have permission by Josh, not the rest of the guys, but at least by Josh, who is the lead singer and guitarist and all around. I really don't think he's the handsome one, but could be wrong. Anyway, that is off of theirs. We'll hear the rest of that at the end of this podcast. But this is a Brian Hornback podcast. Thank you for joining me. I apologize that it's been a while, but this is episode 50, so we made it to 50. This is the day. This is being recorded on October the 13th. It'll be placed out on October 13th. This is the first day of early voting for the November 2nd Knoxville City Council elections. 5 seats are up for grabs. You have the challengers, which are all being supported by the Knox County Republican Party, and you have the incumbents, who are and so what has happened is that the challengers had all kind of gotten together, much like the city council movement had gotten together, and so they've all been running together. Monday, this is Wednesday, October 13th. On Monday night, the Knox County Republican Party had an event at the Knoxville Expo Center where the challengers did a meet and greet. Gary Lowe, who used to be on one of the TV stations doing news and is the president of the West Knox Republican Club, moderated it. But the first hour was just kind of milling around, kind of informally, introduce each other to each other kind of thing. And then a little after 6, they each of the candidates got to give a little stump speech. And then after that, Gary Lowe asked some predetermined questions. And then they were going to try to be out of there by about 7:15. I was able to stay till the conclusion of the opening remarks. Then I had other responsibilities. With that said, there is a story up that went up Monday night, October the 11th, that gave you photos, gave you a video of Jim Clanaris' opening remarks, and all around kind of captured the moment. Actually, when it started about 6 o'clock, there were probably about 50 people in the room because I counted. I would say that you could probably add another 20 to that were there from the 5 to 6 o'clock hour, but had to leave. And then last night, in all fairness, as about the only remaining political writer in this town, I attended the Democrat Women Club. They normally meet on the night that was last night, and they had their meeting at Albright Grove Brewing Company on Sutherland, and they helped co-sponsor, I guess, the Andrew Roberto come meet the incumbent night, and so all the incumbents were there. except for Seema Singh. She had a previous engagement that she was not able to come to that. And so I have that coverage up. They probably had, I would say, 150 when the speeches were made, between 100 and 150 when the speeches were made. I was not able to count because I was actually recording Reverend Harold Middlebrook, who introduced Andrew Roberto, and then also recorded Andrew Roberto's speech. But he was joined by 1st District Councilman Tommy Smith. He was also joined by, of course, he's in the 2nd District, and then he was also joined by Lauren Ryder in the 4th District and Gwen McKenzie in the 6th District. In full disclosure, Seema Singh is on the website as an advertiser, and Gwen McKenzie is on as an advertiser through one of her supporters, has sponsored that ad. So anyway, that's full disclosure. The challengers are in the 1st District, Elizabeth Murphy, the 2nd District, Kim Smith, the 3rd District, Nick Sapero, and the 4th District, Jim Clanaris, and in the 6th District, Garrett Holt. So that's the rundown. That's the challengers and the incumbents. But today started, I guess it's already ended now by the time I'm recording this. I'm recording this at about 6:40 p.m. on October 13th. So we'll know what the numbers for the first day are sometime probably tomorrow. Could happen tonight. Probably going to happen tomorrow. But I want to take just an opportunity. One reason that I play the song "We're All the Same" is my frustration with this campaign. Last week, Susan Richardson Williams, who is a former state party chair, she's also a pundit on WBR's Inside Tennessee, had kind of talked about these races in the city of Knoxville, in the city council races. And she talked about, and she really kind of laid the blame or the credit, however you want to view it, and I guess we'll have to figure that out after November 2nd, on Mike Chase, owner of Copper Cellar, and Randy Burleson, the owner of Aubrey's, because they were, I guess, the primary backers of the Scruffy City PAC, who's kind of have been the key people behind, or the key organization. Scruffy City PAC has been the key component to the challengers, and you know, I don't know that that's fair. I don't know that it's fair to lump Mike Chase and Randy Burleson as being the sole the sole start of the Scruffy City PAC. There is frustration by those who don't necessarily agree, or don't agree at all, not just necessarily, but don't agree with the direction of the city. And you know, that's really a decision that has to be made by city voters and individuals who are city property owners. In talking with an individual who is a city property owner this week, I find it interesting that neither one of the entities, whether they be the challengers or the incumbents, have really done any targeted mailing or any targeted contacting to those qualified voters, those individuals that don't really live in the city, but they own property in the city, so they're qualified to vote in the city. They haven't been contacted. The one I talked to had gotten something from Garrett Holt, but that was it. I had not been reached by any of the incumbents or the challengers. So people have asked me about the whole nonpartisan versus partisan issue. I believe, well, I know, because of my position with the state executive committee, that in the next legislative session, not the special session, it's going to happen in a couple of weeks, but in the next session, which will start in January of 2022, there will be a concerted effort by the Tennessee Republican Party to make school boards a partisan election. That was stripped out in the early 90s, in about 92. And what happened there was that they, when they made the superintendent of schools an appointed position and not an elected position, they made the school board nonpartisan. The city, to my knowledge, as far as I know, the city's always been pretty much nonpartisan. It's been set up that way, 100 years ago. I'm not. Here's my issue. I'm not necessarily for or against partisan or nonpartisan. I believe you play with the game you're dealt, and you move on. Now, the reason I've been asked about it is because I was successful in late 1999 and into 2000. I was successful in a primary contest and then a general contest to serve 4 years on the Knox County School Board, and it was a nonpartisan position. Then in 1999 and 2000, the election, the primary was in February or March of 2000 because it coincided with the presidential primary of 2000. And then, of course, I won more than 50%, and then went on to the general election ballot in unopposed. And then again in 2004, as a Republican, George W. Bush had no real opponent in the primary, so the Republicans really didn't get out and vote, and the Democrats showed up and voted, and they voted against me, and I lost, and that was great, fantastic. And then went on to be Knox County Republican Party chairman 2005 to 2007. But here's the situation. When I ran for school board, I ran against an individual who'd served for 8 years, had completed 8 years, was the current vice chair of the Knox County School Board, and he was a Republican. I mean, he had attended Republican conventions, reorganization conventions. He was a Republican by all measures. And so I did attend the 5th District Democrat Club because of the district I was elected to was from the 5th District. So I did attend the 5th District Democrat Club. They met at Ryan's. Man, I miss Ryan's, just for the record. It's a it's a Chinese, Japanese, American buffet now. But anyway, Ryan's, the 5th District Democrats met there. So I attended one of their meetings, and they asked me to come back the next month and speak. A good friend of mine, who I'm not going to name, who is a Democrat, I told him, I said, hey, I'm been invited to go speak to the 5th District Democrats. And he gave me some advice, and he said, when they ask you how you vote, be honest with them, because they've already researched your voting record. So I went that next month to speak to the 5th District Democrats. And they, sure enough, they asked me that question. After I gave my spiel, they said, are you a Democrat or Republican? Do you vote Democrat? And my answer to that was, I am a Republican. I've always been a Republican. The choice you have in this election is between a Republican who serves on the school board, who has served for 8 years, who is vice chair of the school board, who has not shown up to your club meeting or has had no interest in your organization for the last 8 years. I am a Republican. I'm the only person on the ballot to oppose this individual. And I'm asking for your vote and support. Those Democrats supported me both in 2000 and in 2004. Now, those friends are much older than me, and a couple of them have passed on. A couple of them are still here. They're still friends of mine. And the person that told me to be honest with them about my voting record, I saw the other night at Andrew Roberto's thing. And I need to give him a heads up that this is on there, although I'm not going to discuss who he is, but I did tell you it's a he. So I've been asked since August the 14th, when I was when I was elected to the Tennessee Republican State Executive Committee, and then obviously that gives me a seat on the County Executive Committee. I've been asked by people, why are you allowing Chairman Herrera to continue this partisan thing with the challengers and the incumbents? My simple answer to that is, Chairman Herrera was elected really on the basis of making the city council elections partisan. When he was elected earlier this year, that was one of his issues. Was we're gonna make the city council race partisan, and he said that, and he said there was going to be a clean sweep. And so I don't think my role as a state executive committee man and on the county executive committee is to undo what Chairman Herrera, when he was elected by a majority of those at the convention, it's not my role to undo that. It's not my role to speak for individuals that want that undone. I think we have to stay the course. We have to allow whatever happens on November 2nd and evaluate it after that. And so that's my position. I have to cover both races. I have to cover the challengers. I have to cover the incumbents. And this blog has been in operation now in its 17th year. This blog will not cater to the group that I've been associated with for 30-some, whatever, more than 30 years. I started when I was 16, 1982. Y'all do the math. And so I'm going to continue doing what no other media in this town will do, and that's recover both sides of the story. The New Sentinel's gone tone deaf on everything. The other alternative news, they have their agendas. Compass is, they come at it from a different angle than I do, but they do cover both sides. And Knox Views is I've always called them the local liberal playground. And they are, except the Knox Views takes a broader audience than just Knoxville. And Compass does a good job. Scott and Jesse do a good job covering their stuff, right? But the others aren't really worth mentioning. One's a former newspaper publication that's now online site. The other one's a newspaper publication that the previous administration liked Madeline Rogero. Now in this administration seem to not like India Kincannon. I think that has more to do with the fact that Kincannon was on the school board from 2004 to whenever, and not really about the city versus the county. But anyway, I've gone almost 20 minutes here, kind of talking about that. I just wanted to talk about it. I meant to do this before early voting started. I just really wanted to kind of just open up. I've had the questions asked numerous times as I've been out and about the partisan issue, about if I agree with Chairman Herrera, if I disagree with Chairman Herrera. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I do think that both parties don't work hard enough to run people who have been committed to the cause. And when I say committed to the cause, I think that too many times we run people as Democrats or Republicans, and we say they're a Democrat or they're Republican, but they really haven't participated in the Democrat-Republican structure that we have in Knox County. Okay? Granted, there's a lot of folks that are moving around the country. A lot of folks are moving here from California, from New Jersey, from New Hampshire, from New York. That may have been active up there, may not have been active up there. And we have to do due diligence here to ensure that we're getting their voting records from wherever they're coming from. But I don't think, if I had a criticism, and I do not have a criticism, but if I had a criticism, it would be that sometimes we settle for candidates and we call them Republicans or conservatives, or we call them Democrats or liberals or progressives or whatever the new term is, and we don't really know what they are. Many of them just want a job. I'll be honest with you, there's a situation outside Knox County in another county that's kind of west of us. An individual was on Facebook talking about running for office a couple of years ago and went quiet. Now he's back on Facebook again in another county, not Knox County, asking for people to let him know if they would support him for local office and what local office that would be. Folks, we don't need folks that just want a job, okay, or want a title. The last thing I really needed was to serve on the state Republican Executive Committee, but I saw what the options were, and I knew that I had served a considerable amount of time in the trenches. I've had every position known to man within the precinct structure, every position known to man in the club structures. I've been chairman of the party. I've been an elected official in Knox County, and I wanted to ensure that the State Republican Executive Committee for Senator Massey's district was represented by somebody that had done the work in Knox County. I had a good idea that Lana Smith was going to be the female, because we had both vacancies. We had the man and the woman vacancy. And so I had a good idea that Lana Smith was going to be the female. And so I wanted to ensure that we were properly represented by people who had done the work to prepare for that. Now, if that gets me criticism, guess what? I've been criticized for 17 years as a blogger at brianhornback.com. I was criticized for 2 years and part of that 17 years included the 2 years I was party chairman. But for 17 years as a blogger and as party chairman, and 4 years before that 17 years, I had significant criticism as a school board member. But guess what? I say what I mean what I say, and I stand up for what I believe. And I call it like it is. I was never an umpire in baseball, but that's how I view myself. I view myself as an umpire, calling the balls and strikes and fouls. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen. You don't have to read brianhornback.com. But I'm blessed to have the readers I have, and I thank you for that. And those that sponsor ads on brianhornback.com, I thank you for that. Those that spread the good word, I appreciate that. But we're out of time. I appreciate you listening to the 50th episode of the Brian Hornback Podcast. And can't go out without starting to finish this song by Handsome and the Humbles. And it's called We're All the Same. Because really and truthfully, folks, we're not black, we're not white, we're not Christian, we're not Jew, we're not Pentecostal, we're not Baptist. We really are all the same.
You began to judge me 'cause that behind